Welcome to the post-election edition of the show with no name, where we try to explain what we got wrong last week.
I'm not crying.
Are we doing an extended version of 2 hours?
Well, here's the thing. I was going to bury last week's program, but I figured, it's good for humility's purposes to,
They won't take us to the racetrack.
After listening to all the commentators and everything, during the counts coming in,
yeah,
I came to the conclusion of one of the reasons why the Democratic Party won.
Yeah.
And it was in the one state or the one city where they smothered the area with their election offices. What do you call them?
Inspectors. Inspectors.
No, not inspectors. Precincts.
Yeah.
They in the one area they had 200 and some Democrats scouring the neighborhoods, talking to the people.
They get out to vote. Yeah.
Versus 40 for the Republicans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's a lot of it.
That's a big part of it. And they did that throughout all the areas.
Look, the polls all said it would be close, but nearly all the polls said certain things were Florida was in Romney's camp in almost every poll. Maybe one or two that looked like outliers said no. But as it turns out, of the swing states that Obama carried last time, the only ones he gave up were Indiana and North Carolina. And North Carolina, not by that much.
Right.
That Romney would lose Virginia, Florida, Iowa, Colorado, New Hampshire, Nevada were sort of expected, but and the stuff where he was looked like he had a chance of actually adding, like Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
Nope.
Never developed. And I don't know. I guess it all comes down to a song I once heard Louis Armstrong sing, written by his old friend Duke Ellington on a break during one of his sets in 1931. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
No. He didn't have the swing, he didn't have the teeter-totter, he didn't have the monkey bars.
Wow.
No playground for him.
I mean, I don't even know where to start, because the most incredible figure is that McCain got more votes than Romney in raw votes. And that's just astonishing, because he was such a terrible candidate, and Romney ran a very smooth, steady campaign. Plus, he had the advantage of having an incumbent with a terrible record and 4 years of destroying the myth. And yet,
He lost.
there's like 11 million fewer people voted in this election than voted 4 years ago, which that makes no sense to me.
That startled me, because when I went down to vote down here at the Century Club, I went down at 10:30 in the morning, and I was the 150th person to vote in my precinct, in my ward, my district, in my ward.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, this is going to be a huge turnout this year. We are going to have voters all over the country coming out. And the fact that they didn't is sinful.
I didn't look at the number when I went in.
But it was, I was astounded when they gave that fact that he got fewer votes than McCain did, and the total turnout for the election was lower than the last time. I'm thinking, what's wrong? People deserve what they get. And and I haven't heard though, but what percentage of the registered Republicans came out to vote nationwide? Do you know?
It was like 50%, I believe.
I have several.
To me, it's just amazing. I understand in some states where Romney's winning overwhelmingly, maybe a lot of people didn't vote because it didn't matter. But you know what? They need to run, at least to some extent, a 50-state campaign. There was no evidence in this state that there was a presidential election going on.
No, absolutely.
I've got several granddaughters.
They said, by the way, next time Why don't we just hold the election in Ohio and the rest of us can stay home? You save a lot of money that way.
Yeah, we spent
I have-
$2 billion this time. We could save half of that.
I have several granddaughters that are 30 and younger, and they were all for Obama.
Yeah.
And I says, I don't understand what you're thinking. I didn't want to get into politics with my relatives anyway, but then I turned the TV on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday afternoon, and I don't usually watch it in the afternoon. Ellen's show was on.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, she comes out, she says, Obama won, and they showed the audience. Now, whether they've got applause signs up or not, every woman and they're all women,
Yeah.
every woman in the audience jumped up in the air and screamed.
Right.
I says, God, we're in trouble.
Well, of course, that's a lesbian group, too. but
Yes.
still,
Yes. And she also mentioned that, Ellen, that 3 states approved.
Well, and incredible, I got to say, an incredible number of people voted with their sexual organs in this in this election. Stuff that has nothing to do with the president running the country and leading the world.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. Part of it is, I think we have to accept the fact that the culture wars are all leaning in the other direction. And that makes a big difference. Whether it will ever settle out, I don't know. But
Another thing,
the breakdown in marriage. I mean, nobody wants to talk about it. But that is like the biggest factor. If you look and see the vote Romney got among married people who are married to each other and living together, it was overwhelming. It was like 75%.
Another ironic thing is that you never heard anything before the election from the commentators and the news commentators about the financial impact come January if he gets elected.
That's
They didn't
true.
announce it until Wednesday.
The minute he won,
Thursday,
well,
they're
the
all
minute he
over
won,
it.
he says there's going to be a financial
This
cliff.
morning, there is just one story after another of announced layoffs, and we're not talking small amounts. We're talking big companies laying off hundreds and thousands, and they all waited till Wednesday to make the announcements, particularly in the
and they're all complaining.
in the defense industry and
They're all complaining
aerospace.
January 1, everybody's taxes are going up because of the.
Oh yeah, I
the
can
tax
afford
rate.
another $75 a week in taxes. I think the common man certainly can absorb $75 to $100 a week additional taxes.
Is that what it amounts to?
That's what they said. They said $3,700 for the average couple.
Worker.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
absolutely
I know.
insane.
Well,
And they're going to be the first
If-
ones to complain.
if nothing happens, the Social Security tax is going up. The automatic the ending of the Bush tax decreases goes
Yeah.
up. Those were across the board decreases 11, 12 years ago. Those are all going up automatically if nothing else happens. And the additional Obamacare taxes are directly and indirectly are adding up. Plus, your health insurance is going to be cost you another $3,000 a year.
But,
So,
before that, the commentators were saying no, they weren't going to go up.
well,
They don't want to talk about it.
No,
No.
But now,
But on the other hand, Romney could have been hammering on that too, and he didn't. He played it safe.
he failed on several.
He just tried to play it safe, and you can't do that. You gotta have the
Gotta
fire
tell
in your
what it
belly.
is.
I mean, I've said before, he won me over in the course of this campaign. I was very, very impressed with him after the first debate. But you know, and I don't know what his ads were in these other states, but considering how effective his negative campaigning was during the primaries, burying Gingrich and Santorum and everybody else who was in the way, Perry in Texas and Herman Cain. I mean, he buried all those people with negative campaigning, and it worked. And I said, well, you know, I don't like what he's doing to my friends here, but if he does this against Obama, he's going to win. But he didn't. He just hands off. I want everybody to think I'm a nice guy. I want all the ladies to think, gee, here's a real swell
guess
guy.
what? Ladies didn't think that.
And you know what? If there's anything that can be learned from this election, it's a lesson that they never learned. Negative campaigning works. You just take a look at at the slaughter of Tom Quackenbush. Totally unfair, totally bogus,
Out of context.
thoroughly out of context, and yet those ads were running every 2 minutes.
And they were effective.
They worked for Owens against Doheny. You know that. My opponent's rich.
Yeah.
We can't identify him. But I think you got to also accept the fact that the Republicans just not a solid brand. If you want to get those Reagan Democrats back, I don't know what you have to do, because even the destruction of the coal industry doesn't seem to have affected the votes in western Pennsylvania and southwest Ohio, or southeast Ohio rather.
Well,
Not significantly.
because I think a lot of those places are unionized, and the union vote came out solid.
Well, but the
Democrats.
coal industry, actually, the coal union guys were coming out for Romney, but it didn't seem to affect their relatives like the bailout of the auto industry did. And it's all, hey, I'm dependent on the government, and the government saved me. Well, the government saved you for about 10 minutes, and GM's ready for another bankruptcy. I see nothing but financial disaster coming up unless Obama wakes up. He has a potential for being a great president if he
does the right thing.
does the right things, but he has shown absolutely no intention of doing the right things. The EPA has already put in regulations that will prevent the opening of any coal-fired plant in the United States in the future. They'll be dead. They'll be gone. And they've already proposed regulations to shut down like 25 or 30% of them. Now, hey, guess what? We get half our electricity from coal. What's that going to do to the rates?
They're going to go up.
As he promised. But is anybody listening? Has anybody filled their gas tank lately?
Yeah, I did.
And the sad thing is, the states that are doing the worst economically are the ones that voted for him.
Yes, they did.
The ones that have the worst governments, that have the Democrats running their government, and and have the worst poverty, are the ones that voted for him.
And they were given states. I mean, there wasn't any doubt that they were going to go that way.
Philadelphia. There was like two dozen election districts in Philadelphia where there was virtually 100% of the people voted, and Obama got 99% or better. Now this is like
wow.
That's unprecedented. That many.
This is like that election that you participated in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, the referendum. Yeah.
Or before, actually, that was a fairly free referendum, except for the ballot stuffing.
Wow.
But or Saddam Hussein has been reelected with 99% of the vote.
When 99% of people don't come out.
Alexei Kosygin, 99% of the vote. Everyone loves the Communist Party.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rough hole, because we've got a lot of work to do in the next 7 weeks.
The dog must be over there, isn't he? I see that wire going back and forth.
Yes, the wire is.
Okay.
Well, they got the one commentator.
He's all right.
says-
Leave him alone. Leave him alone.
The one commentator says you got to go to Oklahoma. It must be a Republican state. Oklahoma.
Fairly, yeah. In presidential terms, yes.
Yeah, he says go to Oklahoma. He says things are cheaper. Republicans are in control.
Right. They have their problems too. I got a friend in Tulsa who keeps me up to date on the politics.
Well, I'm sure every state has a
yeah.
problem. I think everybody's got a problem.
Everybody wants the bread and circuses, and it's just amazing. There were, for example, downstate New York, there were robocalls that went out in certain areas that told people that if they went to the polls today and voted for Obama, they'd get a $25 gift certificate at Walmart or someplace.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Now, they didn't say how they were going to get it or anything like that, but that's all it takes. If I go and vote for Obama, I get it.
So they're going to go to Walmart and say, "Where's my the guy? What are you
where's my gift
talking about?"
certificate?" Wendy Long, my candidate for the United States Senate, she goes to vote in her district in New York City, and she goes to hand in her ballot the inspector looks over her ballot and says, it's not complete, the machine won't take it. She says, what do you mean? She says, I'm sure the machine will. No. You have to vote down to fill in all these Democrat spots here, and then the machine will take it. And Wendy says, I don't think so. Of course, she's a lawyer, among other things. And obviously, the inspector didn't even know that this was the Republican candidate for the United States Senate who was standing in front of her. So the woman finally said, all right, we'll try it, and it went through. Yeah. But it's amazing. They kicked out all the Republican inspectors in Philadelphia. There was like 64 of them that were banned from the polls.
On what grounds?
Well, the Democrat chief inspectors, election inspectors, threw them out. So they had to go to court, and the judge had to send the sheriffs out to actually forcibly put them in. By this time, everybody's voted.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And those electronic ballots, they're not quick to do. It's easier when you go right across on your thing, and now, and I can see why some of these long lines.
Well, but I still think it's faster because for this reason, you've got 10 or 12 or 20 places where you can take your time and fill out your ballot, and some people do that. I mean, you and me, we can go and it's no problem, but a lot of people actually like to read what they're doing. Some of them read the propositions up in the corner. And some people can go in there and take forever and hold up the whole line. Yeah, whereas now, if those people can take as long as they want over in the corner, and the actual feeding the machine takes no time at all. But.
Did you see the ballot in Florida? They were showing on the news the other night. It was pages because they had all these propositions that people had to vote on, and it was like 10 pages long.
Really?
Yeah. She had to go through. Go through.
Wow. No, I didn't see that.
Oh.
You got company.
I think that's Anna. Chip the Wonder Dog in the background, in case you were wondering. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any hope.
Now, have you heard any more on the Supreme Court?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Several stories.
Oh well, no. I talked to Felix yesterday.
Yeah.
Felix Katina, who is beside himself, needless to say, because the Board of Election returns showed him in second place, thousands of votes ahead of there. Right. So now they compare the Board of Election votes to the individual county votes, and the individual county votes keep changing. But if you just look at that, Christine Clark, who was the only Democrat in the top four, moved from fourth place to second. Felix moved down to fourth place.
Right.
And his margin on the machine ballot, maybe, because, as I say, everybody's adding these up differently, there's 61 votes between number 4 and number 5, and only number 4 gets in.
Right.
So then he gets a call from number 5 who says, it ain't 61 votes, it's tied.
Wow. Ooh.
So, and of course, there's still ballots to be counted.
I think that's a big surprise that it's so close.
Well,
Felix.
He explained it to me, and I should have figured it out myself. Of all the Democrats, Christine Clark ran the most extensive campaign. She was on my Facebook page every day for the last 3 or 4 months. Okay, and was out there. Plus, she had she was the woman running and all that stuff. I think the only woman running, if I'm not mistaken, with lots of men.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the ballot, you can pick 4. I mean, it says you can choose any 4.
Right.
But she's opposite Felix. So people who ordinarily look, this one's running against this one's running against this one, it's going along the line. Well, I want to vote for Christine. They click Christine and skip right over Felix.
And they go to the last one.
Right. So, and It's on strategic placement issues like that elections are decided.
Yeah, but another thing is, the people that were for Felix and Seiss should have just voted for those two.
Well, but you can't. Well, I mean, a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people did because they came out of this county with 4,000 or 5,000 vote lead over everybody else. And we're talking 61 votes out of a couple of 100,000 cast. So no more. Well. The original account said like 108 Seiss, 106 Katina, and I remember I wrote a funny comment. I wrote a comment meant to be funny. Let me correct myself. That said, well, this just shows that the Seisses had more kids than the Katinas.
So now they open the absentees next week.
I guess so, yeah. I forget if it's 1 week or 2 weeks, but yeah.
12, 14 days, something like that.
Yeah. And it's going to come down to the...
It's going to come down to that. But then again, as I say, let's get down to basics. Each election district has 4 inspectors, 2 from each party. There are a lot of election districts across the county. All these people who work at the polls are either retired or don't have regular jobs. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's not always, in every case, the brightest bulbs in the firmament.
Yeah.
And they're tallying these things up, and then they're transferring to these counts. Now you think, in this electronic age, when everything's on a chip, this should be the smoothest process imaginable, right?
Take the chip
There's
out.
no coordination there whatsoever. And it now takes hours longer to get the results than it used to. When they had the machine count, and they just read the numbers off the machine and called them in. Now they have to physically close everything down, bring it to Fonda under lock and key. They take the chip out. They da-da-da-da. You would think at that point, all I got to do is go zip, and the results are there. Every district, everything, the total tallies. But no, it doesn't work that way. We couldn't get the district by district result of the Charter Commission proposition until the next day. Why? The results are right there. Why couldn't their computer? Understandably, it's an unofficial result because you got to go back and check everything.
They checked the paper ballot against the machine, the paper count against the machine count. That's what they did. That's how they do it.
That's fine. I don't mind them doing that, but they.
Yeah, but you got 2 people counting the paper ballots. This guy, that's they can't count.
All right. So who knows? So poor Felix is
waiting.
And everybody lined up to take his place on county court is waiting with bated breath too. So.
If he loses, does he stay?
Oh yeah, he stays county court. Yeah, he stays county court.
He have to. Like Ryan
he was reelected.
Right. It's like Ryan.
Let's see. When was he elected first? He was elected in '99.
So you don't actually have to give up one position to run for another.
No, not unless the other job was already up this year. Right. So he's got. Was that right? Yeah. Well, let's see. Seiss was elected. Right. Seiss was elected to the Supreme Court in '98. So Felix was elected in '99, which means in 2009 he ran for re-election. So he's good to 2019. And if he wants to stay past that, he's nuts. And congratulations to Phil Cortez and Jed Conboy for their stunning re-elections. I don't think Jed spent a dime. There's no evidence actually that he spent a dime.
I don't think people even know he was on the ballot.
I never saw that.
I don't think there was. Not even a picture of his daughter. No.
People didn't even know he's running until you went in the booth and saw.
Hopefully, he'll put a thank you in anyway.
How much did he win?
Phil ran a couple of nice ads.
How much did he win by?
Pretty substantial. There was one write-in, I think. I saw one write-in against him. I don't think there were any write-ins against Cortez that I'm aware of.
John Clough lost up in.
Well, he had lost the primary. So he
Yeah,
was
he ran
he
his
was
way.
he was outside. He was an outside shot at that point because I think he
Who's the
lost
Demeza-
all the primaries.
Who's the Demeza that won?
I
up
don't
there
think
this
she's
year?
any relation to
No relation.
no, to Tom. No, I don't. Not that I'm aware
Well,
of.
I know a Demeza up there.
Not that I'm aware of. She's been a lawyer up there for quite a while.
And the charter passed by a substantial amount.
I gotta say that I was stunned and thrilled.
Everybody was stunned.
Stunned and thrilled all the way around on that. First of all, the number of people who voted was way more than I anticipated
Especially
would
if
be
you had to
about
flip over the ballot.
Plus nobody was seemed to be expressing much of an interest in the issue up until recently.
I told you how my granddaughters were all
One more
happy
here?
Well, I guess I got it. But they called me about the ballot. They called me about the charter and nothing about president. They wanted to know what my thoughts were on the charter and why.
Yeah.
And I gave them my opinion. Not one of them asked about the presidential
They don't want your
election.
opinion on that. They know what they
I
want.
said, Jesus. I told my wife, I said,
They want their free cell phones. That's what they want. They want their Obama phones.
yeah, they're working. I said,
Why should I pay for that? But getting back to the charter, I mean, obviously we knew the first night that the percentage was huge, and it would be almost mathematically impossible not to have the dual percentages. You'll recall that you needed a majority vote in the city and a majority vote in the towns as a collective. Well, the collective towns. I don't mean as a collective. It's kind of a socialist, progressive, commie term, but. Well, I mean, maybe some of you out there like collectives. If Tony Benjamin's watching, I'm sure you're part of the collective out there in Colorado.
Colorado, is that where he is, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, as it turns out, it not only carried the towns and the city by separate majorities, it carried 46 out of 48 election districts in the county. 46 out of 48. And I think the only town where it lost was Charleston, and I think that was out of respect for Shane Walters, who had opposed it. And I didn't have my glasses on when I read the paper yesterday, so I wasn't able to read exactly what I said. That was that they quoted me, but I had written it out. Heather Nellis had asked me for a comment by email, and I sent one back. But one of the things I said was, this Board of Supervisors showed great character in putting this thing on the ballot because it meant abolishing half their job, or potentially abolishing half their job. And if you count the executive 3/4 of their job, the job itself, plus if they stayed on as legislators, they would, they wouldn't have the power that they used to have because they're shifting power to an executive. And I've been on 3 charter commissions for the county since 1977. There was no way I dreamed that I would ever see the day that they would put it on the ballot, and let alone that it would pass. First of all, you got to give Larry Coddington, supervisor from the town of Glen, enormous credit for pushing the issue to begin with. And you got to give a real lot of credit to guys like Shane Walters, may he rest in peace, who opposed the charter and yet agreed to put it on the ballot and let the people decide, even though he was personally against it. And that's character. That is character. It benefited from obviously benefited from having the new guys on the Board of Supervisors, particularly Jeff Stark and of course Michael Chayera, my co-host of this program, who keeps not showing up. When the heck is he coming back? It's been a year and 2 months, and he didn't come back after I talked him into running.
That's right.
That famous episode. And you know what he told me? He said, Shane Walters, may he rest in peace, apparently had one of these smartphones.
Yeah.
Okay. And he had downloaded that video clip of my talking Michael into running for supervisor.
Oh, really?
And every once in a while, when Michael would be complaining about being on the board of supervisors, he'd hold that. Hey, look at this. You should run.
So now they've got a year to shake everything out, to put it in place by the end of next year.
Yes. Several issues need to be decided. First of all, they have to finalize the election districts, the 9 election districts. We had given them an outline, which they could have put on the ballot, but apparently didn't. But I think it was a fair distribution of the districts.
They'll gerrymander that. They'll gerrymander those lines.
Mm-hmm.
They will gerrymander those lines.
Well, they probably will. I mean, that's the way it works. But they're still going to end up with 9 equal districts, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Hi, Anna. How are you? Must have thought we were being too loud or something. Can't imagine.
No.
She's 3 rooms away.
That you're bashing Obama. Maybe she's one of the women for.
No.
Okay, good,
no.
good.
She's my good daughter. And I don't think the other one voted. So. I just mean,
Yeah.
Thanks to Louisa, I keep getting all the Democrat robocalls.
They were so annoying.
Oh, thank
So
God they're over.
annoying.
And you just want to unplug your phone for the duration.
Yeah, I didn't listen to any of them. Every time I got one, this is so and so for I said,
Well, actually, I wanted to listen to them because I wanted to see what, and I also wanted to take up their time because I knew while I was tying them up, they couldn't be calling somebody else.
I didn't think of that. Next time, the next
Oh, did you hear me
election-
say you're my good daughter? Is that why you came back?
She came back. She wants to sit in
want
on
my
this
coffee
now.
pot.
Oh, you want your coffee? Oh, I see. All right, make a full pot, will you? Thanks, son. Back to the charter. So they first of all they have to do the districts.
Yeah.
Then they have to decide on the salary of the executive, and however else they want to rearrange
And the
things.
legislators.
Well, yeah, if they do nothing, they remain the same, I think. That would be my ruling if I were the county attorney, which I'm not, nor do I ever expect to be. I came close once, back in, back around 1984. I came close to being county attorney.
Yeah.
Dick Healy was on the Board of Supervisors. And you may recall that in 1983, I ran for mayor,
Yeah.
right? I ran for mayor against, you don't remember that?
I never got involved in politics until.
You probably voted for Villa. Anyway, I ran against Villa in a primary. He was a sitting mayor. I was 32 years old. And I lost the primary. And then I kept my mouth shut. I was still on the conservative line. Hadn't really decided. I mean, I knew it was over at that point. After I lost the primary, there's no way I'm winning as a third-party candidate. I did participate in one debate, sort of, or a joint appearance as the Conservative Party candidate, and it was really one of my finest hours because I knew I wasn't going to. I had no way of winning. So I did no pandering whatsoever to the senior citizens, but I was really on. I mean, it was. I could say whatever I wanted, and what you see is what you get, and all that. And somebody raises their hand and says, "What are you going to do for the seniors?" And I said, "Let me tell you a story." I said, some years ago they were rebuilding Shuttleworth Park, or Mohawk Mills Park, it may have been at the time. It may have been Shuttleworth, I forget. And they got all this federal money to come in and rebuild the park. And somebody said, we've got to do something for the seniors in this project. So they built a shuffleboard court. Right?
Yeah.
At Mohawk Mills Park. True story. And I said, from that day to this, I've never seen anyone play shuffleboard. Then a few years later, the old parking lot on Market Street got wiped out when the Chuctanunda Creek flooded, and the only way they could figure to rebuild that flood wall was to get federal and state aid to build a park there, and that's how Kirk Douglas Park came to be. Kirk Douglas Park was totally bogus from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It was never seriously meant to be a serious park, but it was the only way to get money. So the assistant city engineer, can't remember his name, he was married to Marcia Malik, a very bright guy. Remember Marcia Malik from my class? Lovely girl in every way. Anyway, can't remember his name, but Marcia's husband designed the park, and it was great, and they got it in, but they had to do something for the seniors, so they built another shuffleboard court, which has never been used. And I said, let me tell you something. I didn't exactly say, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what your country can do for you, or vice versa. What I said was, I said, you know what? Collectively, you people have a lot of years of wisdom and understanding and time on your hands. And I said, and instead of asking, what are you going to do for the seniors, you should be saying, what can I do? Can I mentor some young kid? Can I do an after-school program, either just watching kids or teaching them something? Can I spend time visiting some of the other people who aren't as ambulatory as I am, or as well off as I am? Can I get involved in the charities of the community
Instead of playing bingo?
Yeah. And I said it much more eloquently than I'm doing now, but it was really great. So what is my point? Going back to being county attorney. So, and at that point, and I did not attack Mario Vella, who was not there. Actually, I think he was having surgery at the time. Didn't he have I think he had lung surgery in the middle of the campaign. And I did not attack him at all. I don't know that I even mentioned him. I just talked about what I thought the city should do.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter, I'm at a funeral of a relative of a prominent Republican. Okay? And the prominent Republican speaks to me and it comes over to me. I'm sitting down chatting with some other people, and he says, I just want you to know you're doing the right thing by keeping your mouth shut. The party will remember this, and don't you worry about that. You know, it's good what you're doing for Villa. You know me. That's all it took. That's all it took. I probably would have kept my mouth shut for the rest of the campaign until I was congratulated for playing ball. Sitting behind me at that wake was Bernie Casellas, the county Democratic chairman. And I think he was right there when that conversation took place. And Bob Moran was a Democratic candidate. He was also my alderman at the time. And I turned around. Should I be telling these stories on video? I turned around to Bernie and I said, Bernie, let's go for a walk. And we took a walk outside the funeral home, and I said, listen, here's where I stand. I don't know if my staying in this race helps or hurts Bob Moran. I mean, there's arguments both ways, that I'm splitting the Republican vote by staying in, or that I'm splitting the anti-Villa vote by staying in. I said, and I don't know the answer to that. I said, but I'm going to do a little polling and asking around and talking to people and getting a consensus as to whether my staying in or getting out is going to help or hurt more. And I said, but whatever decision I make, the decision I'm making is going to be to help Bob Moran beat this guy. Bernie says, I understand. And then I go to a common council meeting, the next common council meeting. And of course, there comes a point where the time for the audience to be heard.
And you were heard.
And I think Villa was still out from his surgery at the time. I don't think he wasn't in the room. And I got up and I said, "This I have on video someplace. If I can find it, I'll include it in the program." I said, I congratulated Mourning on something he had done or said, either then or previously, or position he had taken, and I said, and I just want to say, as one of your constituents, I'm proud of the way you've handled yourself as alderman of the whether it was the 3rd or the 6th ward at the time, I don't remember, the 3rd ward, I guess. And that's why I've decided I'm going to pull out of this race and endorse you for mayor. And he didn't see it coming at all. He did not, nor did anybody else in the room. The reporters get up and run out and go to the phones, just like a Frank Capra movie. You know, they all run for the phones, and I go back and sit down, and they had manually operated cameras at the time. They had actually had people manning the 2 cameras in the common council chamber, and the one camera turned around on me as I sat down, and you can see this smile come across my face. Anyway, my friends on the board of supervisors, and I think it was Healy, said, "You just blew any chance you had of being county attorney." And on election day, I actually went to the polls and asked people not to vote for me. And I still got a lot of votes.
The pictures were in.
And of course, Mourning lost and Bill won. And
Yep.
and that's
And the street didn't get plowed.
no.
Remember?
This is the beauty of it. No, absolutely the opposite. The following spring, George Street, which hadn't been repaved since 1925, I think. Well, no, it was once after that, because they got down to the 1925 surface when they scraped it. And Dartmouth Street, the next corner up here, both got paved end to end. And you might say, how is this possible? How is this possible that the man I ran against would pave my street above all other streets in the city, after all the things I said about him? And the answer is a simple one. George Street and Dartmouth are the shortest route between Tony Sardonia's house and the golf course. And Mario would pick up Tony down on Phillip Street.
Yep.
They'd have to come up George Street. Dartmouth at that time was probably 20 feet wide. Because
a couple houses on
it had disappeared because it had gradually, there was no curb. So over the years, as the rain ran down, both sides of the road disappeared, and it was only about one lane. Seriously, and so now since then they've been God, even that was '84. How many years ago was that? 28 years ago. That's the last time it was paved, and I don't expect it to be paved for another 28 years. Certainly not now, because I don't think Ann Gauss, does she? Because it's also the shortest distance between her house and the golf course, but I don't think she goes to the golf course. Oh well, and it's not in bad shape, actually. They did a good job.
No, the heights are up here are all well maintained.
And then
they don't get the traffic they get downtown.
So that's how I got to be county attorney. Anyway, that's my story.
Almost.
Had lunch with, was it lunch or breakfast? Breakfast. I had breakfast with Jeff Stark and George Amador on election day over at the Southside Coffee Shop. And George's thing is going down to the absentee ballots. I think he was down by like 129 votes, which is easily overcomable on a recount. So who knows? But that was a lot closer than he was expecting, I'm sure, or most anybody else. And it also was a balance of power in the state senate. if he
loses.
if he loses, the Democrats potentially take over. Although there's one Democrat who's talking about switching to Republicans. So
really?
So if he caucuses with the Republicans, it doesn't matter whether George wins or loses, except of course to George, and probably to us too, because he knows us here now, and he's got relatives here. His mother was from here. Anyway,
I think there were a lot of surprises. Did you see where the woman who ran for Senate in Connecticut spent $100 million in her campaign? Now, I'm not really good at math, but how does spending $100 million equate to getting a job that pays you $1.75 a year? What? That's ridiculous. $100 million her campaign was.
Wow.
in Connecticut.
Well, they had to be in the political
and a lot of the polls said she was ahead, and she got clobbered. She got clobbered.
100?
Oh,
Republicans didn't turn out. What few there are.
Yeah. And then the woman won in Massachusetts.
The Pocahontas one. Pocahontas or Liawatha.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta wonder what's in people's heads. I can say, okay, we don't want Brown because he's a Republican or whatever. Well, why would you go and poll lever for not only a liar, but somebody who was practicing law without license and representing all the people that you're supposed to hate? And I mean, total phony end to end, and doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
She won. Yeah. But
scary. Every close race, the Republicans lost. Wherever it was close, they lost. It was exactly the opposite of 2 years ago when the Tea Party. Of course, they kept the Tea Party silent this year because once Romney was a nominee against Obama, the Tea Party stayed in the background.
And how many of them came out to vote? I bet.
I'm thinking a lot of them didn't. But actually, probably the biggest Tea Party favorite running this year was Ted Cruz in Texas. And all the establishment Republicans in Texas, including the very conservative Rick Perry, were backing his opponent in the primary. And he lost the first round of the primary by quite a bit, but there was a runoff. Mm-hmm. And it was let me tell you, Sarah Palin's candidates continue to do very well. The people she endorses, it's like,
I think one of them lost, didn't she?
I'm not. Let's see.
I think I heard.
Well, all those upper western states, all the Republicans lost up there where they shouldn't have. So I don't know. But Cruz was a big prize because he's a very bright, very articulate Hispanic, Latino Republican, very conservative, gave a hell of a speech at the convention. And what was really impressive about it is when he came out to speak, the podium sunk down, and he just stood there with himself, without a teleprompter, and without the notes, like Nixon used to do. I mean, people forget how good Nixon was on his feet because he had so many bad things about him, but he was incredibly articulate on his feet. And Cruz was just as good, and he could be a rising star. He could be the guy. We'll see. Anyway, he's got to keep it. But I withdrew any endorsement of Aiken in Missouri some time ago on this show. I probably would have voted for him if I was out there, but he made a complete ass out of himself. And he was not Sarah Palin's candidate, and she did not endorse him in the general. But mainly, she did nothing in the general election. And I think one of the problems with the Romney campaign is, the dog just moved the camera, but I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
Is that
she didn't?
They wouldn't unleash the conservatives. I got to give Santorum and Gingrich a lot of credit. After all that Romney said and did to them, They both went out there and they were troopers. They went around the country, but they were kept in the background. They weren't the big spokesman for the Romney campaign or the surrogates going into this state or that state. They were mostly on the fringes. David Petruccia ran into Santorum when he was down in Texas, in a hotel lobby, a month or so ago.
Now, is Romney finished?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it.
He said no. He said
there's nothing more for him to do. He's certainly not going to run for governor of Massachusetts. He's 65 years old. He's certainly not going to run for a first term at 69. And besides which, he's proven that they don't like him. I mean, you can't get that. I'm mystified because I found him very likable myself, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people didn't like.
I tell you, when he first started running, I was a little skeptical. But the more he became in the public's eye,
I think he meant skeptical.
Spectacle?
Yeah, you said spectacle. Skeptical.
Did I say spectacle?
Here's your spectacles.
Okay. After he started running, though, I got more and more respect for him. And,
yeah, me too.
And he even looked better to me for some reason.
But he did look very CEO-ish, and I think the people when
just didn't connect.
He just.
Yeah.
Now here's an
despite the fact that he has some well-established connections with the regular guy, he wasn't able to translate that.
He wasn't able to personally connect.
Yeah,
he didn't.
And that's one of those things you can't explain.
No.
But what really surprised me is that a lot of people really loathed him. And that's the only other explanation you can get. They just didn't want him there. They were willing to suffer another 4 years of Obama rather than have Romney there. And I don't see.
That's because they equated him to being a rich guy.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody loves to bash the rich people.
Yeah, except that the Democrats love the rich people who are they're rich people. And most of the rich people are liberal Democrats. When you get right down to it, if you go to the Obama carried 8 of the 10 wealthiest counties in the United States, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right? Those people are liberal Democrats.
But that's not what they're putting over.
They love Jack Kennedy. They love Franklin Roosevelt because they were rich men. They identified.
Yeah, but they weren't being
Thomas
touted
Jefferson.
as the rich people.
No. It was it was the guy who grew up over the grocery store. Was the evil capitalist Nixon, or John Adams. Same thing. Anyway, this country is divided right down the middle.
Who do you think is going to be the woman candidate in the next election?
Who knows?
I mean, the way things are going.
I guess what I was about to say. We don't understand each other. We don't talk the same language.
No.
I got friends on the other side that I couldn't even read Facebook the next day because it was because of all the gloating that was going on, and I don't get them. And they don't understand. They think we're racist millionaires, and
I don't know.
They really don't like us, do they?
They don't like us, and they would kill us if it came to that.
Where did that come from? Where did that hate come from against the Republicans?
Well,
I don't get that. I don't understand that.
A lot of women hate men. Period. Obama carries unmarried women by huge margins, and the married women go to Romney by a huge margin. So, I mean, a lot of it is deep-seated. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that comes.
Why would anybody vote on how these guys feel about gay marriage, for example? It doesn't make it, but every gay marriage proponent in the United States voted for Obama because he came out in favor.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with
it? Has absolutely nothing to do.
Economy and running the government.
The economy. The economy is going to collapse because nobody's doing anything about it except playing golf, and that worries the hell out of me.
Well,
Anyway, is that it for the first hour? That's just about
That
right.
is exactly the first hour.
Okay. That's probably enough of this. We'll be back shortly with more of the show with no name.